Hi everyone, it's Misty here from ScrapbookPal.com. Thank you so much for joining me. In today's video, I'm going to be making a card using this really adorable Hive 5 stamp set from Lawn Fawn. I'm going to be using these stamps and the die cuts to create a card. I'm also using a couple of other things. We've got the Honeycomb shaker tag die, and then I am going to be using a little piece of the pop-up die. So we're going to make a really fun honeycomb themed card for today's project. So I managed to find some honeycomb paper in my stash. I don't know about you, but pattern paper is a weakness for me, kind of like eyeshadow palettes. So I knew I had to have a honeycomb pattern somewhere, and I sure did. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out two of the big tags. So I cut out the outline, which will make the top of the shaker, and then the background. And then in the end, I end up cutting up three of the little tags. So I'm going to bring in some mustard seed to add a little bit of warmth to this paper. I wanted it to have a little bit of depth. I'm not one to always do this, but I felt like this paper really kind of needed it. And I really love the look of it. And like I said, there is a faint honeycomb pattern. You can kind of see when we get to the pictures at the end. And this is just a mini distress ink. I'll probably link to the big one because I'm not sure if the package of the small ones is in stock. So I'll link to whichever one is available for you, and along with all the other supplies, Copic markers, etc. So I'm not making tags, so I went ahead and cut off the top of those honeycombs, and we're going to be making some shakers. So I have a piece of acetate. I'm not going to lie to you. I used to be a teacher, and I have like 100 transparency sheets that I inherited from a teacher that had my classroom before I did. And I was like, oh, these will make really fun shakers. So that's what I've been using. But of course you get acetate from stamp sets. You can have acetate from eyeshadow palettes, etc. I always hold on to all of that. So I used some liquid glue to get those adhered to the acetate, and then I cut them out. And here I'm using some of these foam strips from Scrapbook Adhesives, again, linked down below, to create my little shaker. So the first one, I am adding the foam to the back of the shaker. I'm going to share with you adding it to the top, and I think that worked a little bit easier, but I didn't even think about that until I was done. I was like, okay, wait a minute. This is not quite as easy as I wanted it to be. Once I get that foam down, I'm going to bring in an embossing tool just to kind of go around the inside so I don't have any static. And I'm just using some seed beads from my stash because I wanted it to shake. I wanted it to have that interactive element, but I didn't want it to be I didn't want it to detract from the rest. Now I had a little bit of adhesive sticking out, and this is why I did it the opposite way. So I'm going to bring in that mustard seed, and I'm just going to go around it to kind of hide the white. And then I'm going to trim it up with my scissors. For the second one, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and add the foam strips to the actual top of the shaker. And this way I don't have to guess where the adhesive may peek out. And this for me was much easier. And these foam strips are a saving grace. And again, I will have them linked down below. They're from Scrapbook Adhesives, and they're not very long, which is also something I love about them. So I'm going to do something a little different this time as well. I'm going to go ahead and use that embossing tool, and then I'm going to make like a little pocket and then add the beads to the inside. So I'm not adhering all four sides. I just added some beads, and there we go. So I am bringing in the cloud stencil die. I love these new dies from Lawn Fawn, Stencil, because they have lines on them for you to line up. I don't know if you can see the faint lines kind of that are on the brown backer sheet. It makes it easy to line up, and it gives you a lot of dimension. I'm actually using Salvaged Patina for this. I wanted something that was a bit more blue-green. And if I had white picket fence, I think is what the Distress Oxide was called, I would probably do white clouds on blue paper, but I didn't, so I went ahead and did it this way. And I actually like it this way better. So, and we're actually not going to see a whole lot of the background because the honeycombs are so big. So here I am kind of playing with placement, seeing where I want them. And I realized I only cut out 4 honeycombs and I like to do odd numbers. So I'll go back later and cut out another one of the small tag. Small honeycomb tags. I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. So I'm going to be stamping the bees that don't have the party hats on, because initially I wasn't going to do a sentiment, because if you follow me at all, if you know me at all, I like to leave sentiments off my cards. That way it can be like, this could really be any kind of card. It could be a baby card. It could be a congratulations on your promotion. Like it literally could be, happy new home. It really could work for any kind of occasions, but I do end up making this a birthday card. And if I had had that forethought, I probably would have done the little bees with the party hats because they are adorable. So I stamped the queen and both of the other bees, and now I'm going to bring in the heart trail. I ended up not using that, but I stamped it, and then I'm going to stamp 3 of the flowers because they're so stinking cute. And I am just using the mini Misty and some Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I am going to be Copic coloring. Although I had the itch over the weekend to watercolor. I was like, where did this come from? Because I'm not someone who watercolors. I almost exclusively color with Copics. I love coloring. Like, I could color every day, all day, every day. Crayons, give me whatever. I remember being in the hospital and my husband then at the time was a boyfriend. He's like, what do you want? I was like, I want crayons and a coloring book so I could color. Okay, for the bees, I'm going to make them a little bit more gold toned. So we're using Y17, Y15, and Y8. I don't keep my lids up because there is a reflection. So I have them at the bottom of the screen. And again, they will be linked in the description box down below. And I'm not doing really fussy coloring. I'm just starting on the outside with the darkest, and then we're going to work our way to the middle with the lightest. These bees are a little tiny, and there's not a whole lot of coloring space, so it makes them pretty easy to color. And I do feel like I got a really nice highlight in the middle, and they just look fun. They're just fun. I mean, not really in real life. I mean, I'm all to my husband, save the bees, don't kill the bees. And those videos where the beekeepers are out and about collecting hives and stuff, I'm like, that is amazing. I love it. Bees are they're so interesting little insects, and they're so smart. And now I'm going back and I'm just adding in a bit of that darker to give me a bit more contrast. And once I do that, we're going to move on to the flowers. So now I'm going to bring in Y26 and Y35 to color the insides. I'm guessing these may be daisies. I don't know. I didn't want a bright yellow because we have the bright yellow hive. And I'm just bringing in a blender pen to kind of make the lighter shade. So pulling it out and making the lighter shade. I brought in some B00 to add just a little bit of color to their wings. And then later I go back and I add some Nouveau drops to give them a little bit of sheen. And then here I'm using a gold metallic Sharpie to give the crown some shine. Okay. This is my new favorite paint combination. I don't even know how I found it, but I love it. It's RV 13, 23, then 21. So 21 is the lightest, 13 is the darkest. I'm starting with 13 right at the center of the flower because even though these are pointing down, I still think by the center it would be darkest. Coloring is so subjective, meaning that it's really however you like to color. Because some people start, with an all over wash of color. I like to start and go darkest to lightest. You just have to, what looks good to you and what's comfortable to you is perfect for you, right? So don't be afraid to try different coloring methods, different, techniques, etc. It's just paper. You can stamp it again. You can, do what you need to do again, etc. So this is my favorite green combo. It's YG0907 and 05. If you've watched any of my videos here on this channel, you know that this is the green that I tend to gravitate to. I just absolutely love it. It's a fun and vibrant green, and it just works, man. It just works. I think the Copic markers have done well with every kind of color family except for V, violet, purples. I really wish they would come out with more purples. I just feel like there's not enough to really give you a really beautiful, like deep dark purple, like a royal purple, like an eggplant purple. I don't know. So initially I didn't realize that the heart would be cut out. So I brought in a little bit of that leftover Salvaged patina to go over the heart. So I got everything die cut, and I'm deciding where everything is going to go. And like I said, I already did this with the honeycomb, and this is when I realized I needed another one, and here we go. And here's where I kind of want the bees. They're so cute. And I'm doing 5 honeycomb, 5 bees, 3 flowers. So I just really like to work in, odd numbers. So I decided, since I had ink blending on the honeycomb, I wanted to go ahead and do ink blending around the edges of the card layer. So again, just with the Salvaged patina, going around and bringing it in just a little bit. Again, I've already done it on the hive, and I felt like I wanted to do it on that as well. So this is the grass piece from the pop-up card die set, and I went ahead and cut out 2 pieces of that, and I brought in an ink from Pinkfresh Studio. I don't remember the color, but it's the darkest one of their greens. I love their ink. It's so nice. And I'm just using the thinnest of those kind of toothbrush brushes to add some ink to the grass. So I'm just using some Tombow Mono liquid glue. I had some issues with my tube of glue, so you'll see me got glue everywhere. I used a piece of cardstock to like scrape it off, and I'm going to use whatever's left on that cardstock to add more later. I will say that I like using liquid glue when I do a background like this, because there you can see my liquid glue, my leftover glue. And that way I can move it around and get it straight. So this is just on a 5.5 by 4.25 note card that I just keep in my drawer and pull it out when I need one. So I went ahead and tucked the first flower over the seam where the 2 pieces of grass meet, and then I tucked one behind, and then I'm going to pop this up. Now initially I only put adhesive, or like dimensional adhesive, under the flower. I went ahead and cut one in half and put it under the leaves as well. I used an adhesive, I think it's a Xyron adhesive eraser, because I got a little bit of glue on the back of the, or on the front of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and get these kind of attached. I'm not going to lie, I struggled a little bit with this. I don't know what was going on with my brain, but I was like, what am I doing? Like I couldn't get them straight like I wanted them to. So I was like, okay, let's get the big ones down where we want them, where we need them to go, and then we will fiddle with the little ones. And that's exactly what I did. I apologize for the glare, but it's got acetate on it, and acetate is going to be shiny. So yeah. So again, just tucking these in with liquid glue. Trying not to put glue all over the place, but here you can see I got too much. I'm going to bring in a wet baby wipe actually and kind of wipe that up. It does get covered, so it's not noticeable, but if you still have some on, once it dries, you can use that adhesive eraser. So now we'll get our bees adhered once I get everything straightened. For the queen, she's going to go directly on the hive with liquid glue, and the rest of the bees are going to get these foam squares, also from Scrapbook Adhesive. I love to add dimension to my cards, literally with these foam squares. It just adds a bit of dimension. It gives them a pop of, they look like they're 3D. I just really, really like it. So I had that little white spot, as you can see right there, where my hexagons didn't line up. So I'm going to hide that with a little bee. And then, like I said, the rest of them are going to be popped up, and the queen is going to be adhered flat. So cute, but I was like, okay, it's missing something. So I brought in my Nuvo shimmer pen. You guys, shimmer has to go on everything. Can't help it. I can't help myself. And then I was like, okay, I think I want to add a sentiment. So I am using my wire snips to cut out the bubble, the talk bubble die. And then I am stamping Happy B-Day and one of the longer strip sentiments. So I like to take the part of the stamp that will get ink and run it on the back of my hand before I use it for the very first time, because it takes away the sticky and it makes sure that the paper doesn't move when you go to stamp a second time. So I'm going to use the die to cut out the little B sentiment, and then I'm going to just cut out the larger sentiment with scissors. I'm going to add the little speech bubble down flat with some liquid glue, and then I just used one of those foam things for the other sentiment, and then I'm bringing in some of these clear jewel drops from Nuvo to give the wings of the bee a little bit of something. Right here, that's not on there yet. I did that as an afterthought, but here's a look at the card. I love it, so cute. So as I mentioned, all of the supplies will be listed in the description box down below. Don't forget to check out the coordinating blog post. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate you. We will see you in the next video. Bye for now.